Do that now. And we're live. So like Dee likes me to say, let's get the party started. Hello, planet Earth, and welcome to Lilia's live streams on Wednesdays. And thank you for joining us. I'm Lilia. My pronouns are she and hers. And these lives are a way to highlight the amazing people in the world, like the ones we have here today, and also people with trans identities and their allies, providing inspiration and information for you, our viewers. So today's topic is especially for the partners of people exploring their gender identity and expression. And I'm very honored today to have experts on this topic from North America. Author and educator, Maynard from New York. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you. And also Denise from Canada. Thank you for coming, Denise.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Paula from the US. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So to those of you listening right now, please let us know in the comments. We'll be reviewing those and attending to those as they pertain to our conversation. Let us know where you're from and what your questions are so we can include them in the discussion. So DM Maynard, we first met at the Philly Trans Wellness Conference in 2019, right?
Yes.
And that led to a collaboration on a blog, which was amazing. And that led to us, becoming friends. And then we did our first live in December of 2020. And now we've done a series, and this is the 7th episode of that series, which is called Reflective Conversations on Gender Transition. So it's all about promoting the topics of your book. So can you let us know a little bit about you and what you've been doing since our last episode in June, the 6th episode?
Thanks, Lil. I want to really thank the Facialteam for supporting the journeys of partners, parents, family members, and educators as everybody navigates the transition for themselves. Yes, I'm so grateful that you provide a platform. I mean, the whole goal here is to educate people and lift the voices of everyone, including those who are in transition, sorting out or exploring their gender. And but all those people also need support, and they often come in the form of a partner, a parent, a family member, an educator. I mean, this week, I just came back last night from one of the books that I wrote is called the Reflective Workbook for Teachers and Support Staff of Trans and Non-Binary Students, your schools transition as your students transition. And so this really fabulous district in Charlottesville, Virginia, invited me to do a training for the whole high school, and now they're created a cohort of 25 people from throughout the whole district there to be trained on how to support and really learn about how to best serve the best practices and ways to help the journeys of their trans, non-binary, and gender questioning students. So it was really fabulous. And they're using this book as the workbook, as the text for me to do monthly online training now, virtually. Oh, Lo, thank you. So I first wrote the book for partners, and because when I learned that my spouse needed to transition, I didn't know what it would mean for me or us or the relationship. And I looked for resources. I found mostly memoirs, but nothing that I could found that really addressed the partner to share their voice and to navigate and reflect on their transition for themselves. And so Jessica Kinsey Publishers so graciously published the first workbook. I'm an educator first and foremost. I say that's my truth. And I taught for more than 30 years in the classroom. I loved it more than I could ever I still want to do it. I'm still going to be doing it, but this is a different way of teaching, and it's a different type of classroom, but it's really important. And to be able to go to a school and be able to, my hope is to share ways that you can help save a child's life and a child's dignity, as well as staff members, because there are many people in education who also identify along the transgender spectrum, and to support their journeys too. So, and then parents, I got to meet really powerful, strong parents who were still navigating and not sure many things for themselves. And they asked me to write the book for parents and families. And I spoke with my publisher, and that ended up being able to happen. So that's where we are. And then it is, and now we are putting together this conference. So that's what's going on for me. So can
yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know that I've put a link to your website, maynardswisdom.com, in the chat if anyone wants to learn more about DM Maynard.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I run an education business called Maynard's Wisdom. It stands for Working Individual Strategies, Differentiating Original Methods. And so everything's individualized, regardless of what the topic is. But I would like to get to Denise and Paula, because they are really the real deal, you know, really true blue, great human beings that I trust and I respect. And we met in through the same venue that I met you, Lil, but at different years at different times. So I'm going to introduce them in the order which. So, and also they each were interviewed through the process of this series. And so after that, we all just collaborated to talk more, and we'll explain about that after. So Denise, we lovingly call each other, I'm D1, Denise is D2, and Paul is P3. And now we've lovingly had a labeling or calling, I hate labels, so we're lovingly saying that Lil is L4. So, and we're just gonna play bingo, that's like a little joke here. So, so Denise, can you tell us a little bit about your journey, just to review for those, and if people haven't seen her interview, please go on this series and you'll find Denise and her beautiful wife. So
I'll share the link now.
All right, great. Hi, Denise.
So D1 and I met in 2017 at the Philly Wellness Conference, and we had similar stories, some differences to them, but quite similar. And so we found ourselves sitting together in some sessions for spouses, and I attended D1 session, which was amazing. And for me, that was the first time that I had been around people or been able to have conversation with people who were going through a similar experience that I was. My spouse was transitioning male to female. And again, I'm with Denise, when I was looking for resources, there weren't really many available that were helpful. There were stories, not too many back then. There's certainly a lot more memoirs available now, and people sharing their stories. But there was not sort of, I'll call it a how-to guide or helpful hints, other than you would read someone's memoir and you could find similarities in their stories, but nothing that sort of helped you kind of work through your own feelings. And so that conference was an amazing opportunity for me to meet people who were going through a similar experience and, you know, having the same kind of questions, but didn't have people to answer them. So after that meeting, Dee and I became friends in that meeting, and she decided that she was going to write this book, which is an amazing resource for people. So I would suggest that, you know, if you are a partner of a spouse, absolutely, there's so much valuable information in here that's going to be so helpful to so many people. There's reflections on people's experience. There's tools that you can use to work through your own feelings and thoughts. And it's a place to record your own journey. And it's become an invaluable resource. And so in working through the book after it was published, D1 and I have continued to have this friendship and grow and share our experiences together. And then in the not too distant past, Dee introduced me to this beautiful, lovely Paula, who has a similar story as well. Again, a little bit of different, but a similar story. And it's just amazing to be able to connect with people who can understand what you're going through and share the very unique experience that is the transition of the partner.
Thanks, Dee. Denise has been like the best PR person in the world. I don't even have to explain it. I could be somewhere and she'll just pull out the book and I'll be like, oh my goodness, Dee, you're so hilarious. And she's so cute. And, it could be very lonely and isolating as a partner. And when you really find, and being the author of the book, it's kind of like, I don't know, do I mix the two, as an author or as a human being who still needs support in ways at times. And Denise is really someone I could count on and is a vault and is a really honest friend. We all need someone to tell us the truth, and Denise tells me the truth, and I value that so. And then, yes, this beautiful Paula, our beautiful friend Paula. I met Paula at a separate time and at the same conference, but at a different time. And Paula, you want to explain your version of us meeting? And I also interviewed Paula, by the way. Lil, if you could put hers up with her wonderful self.
So we met back in 2019 at the same conference. And for me, it was the beginning of my husband, who was assigned female at birth. It was kind of the beginning of our journey. We couldn't find anything out there at all. So we came to the conference, and I was sitting there amongst a whole lot of partners. Like, the room was filled, the floor was filled. There was people out in the hallway. And I'd met a couple people on like Facebook groups. And so we met up there. And one young lady, as soon as you started talking, Dee, you just came in and I don't know what you said. It was something to, hey, you're important too. Something to that effect. And she just started crying. And so you literally came over, kind of climbed over us to get to her, to hold her. And just to tell her it was going to be okay. And it's still 2 years later, it's still okay, And so through our nonprofit that me and my husband created after that, to be able to help those here in Atlanta that also are dealing with transition, then that's how we got together with, D2 and D1 and decided to do the conference.
Yeah, Paula, could you just tell a drop about the work about your organization? And Paula was the person who came up with the idea of doing the book club, right? Paula, you did that, but also talk about the work that you do.
Yep. So we started the group because we just needed support. We needed someone else that was going through the same experience as us. And there was nothing here around, pretty much not anything online. And so we thought if we created it. So once a month, we were having in-person meetings. This was before COVID, to just come together and talk, to have someone you could relate to, because that's always, you think you're lonely out there on that island. A lot of times the partners will get help and support, but there's not, for the person that's transitioning, but there's not a lot for the partners who's also going through the transition. So we then last year during COVID converted over to being online Zoom meetings, and we still do those. We also have just begun in the past 6 months a housing program for trans masculine, trans men who are experiencing homelessness. or transitional, going from one to another place and just doesn't have, a current place to be. And so that's going pretty well. We're currently in a transition period with that as well. I know, I'm so excited. So yeah, I think that's pretty much our groups right now. We do all different kinds of things where Trey does different panels and stuff like that.
I mean, Paula is all heart. I mean, just all heart. Her and Trey, all heart, or Derek, depending. And all heart. And Denise, you also started a new position at your job. The point, one of the reasons that this is so beautiful is that we all were almost like invisible in certain ways in certain stages. Not that I've always been an outgoing person, and you would, if I was in a room, I would be talking. I'm not trying to act like I was like shy, but when it came to certain things, something very personal like this, it's something that you can feel a little invisible, because often the person who's in transition needs to have the focus because they're going through a lot. And so you kind of take a step back because you want to make a lot of space respectfully. And so when, as the journey, one of my goals, if I can, is the privilege I have, is to raise the voices and help allow spaces for partners to speak and tell their truths and give them and have them have platforms. I mean, Denise is now leading a group now. Last night we were trying to get in touch with her, make sure we're all technically ready here. And she's like, I'm sorry, I was leading a support group. So Denise, can you tell a little bit about that? And also a little, and I know Paula was connected with that too. I know, very instrumental. And then, so Denise, can you explain a little bit your position at work too?
Yeah, one thing I want to point out just before, that's really important to understand, is that having the support of other partners who are going on a similar journey is vital to your own mental health, emotional health, physical health to some degree, to feel that someone who can say to you, I truly understand what you're going through. Soph and I have been very, very fortunate in that we have had so much love and support from families, from colleagues, from coworkers, and that's all very important. And it's been an amazing feeling to have that, for both of us to be surrounded by that love and support. But as a partner, you really need someone to talk to who can say, I understand exactly how you feel because I've gone through that exact same thing. So, one of the things that was important to me after listening to D1 at that conference in 2017 was that I wanted to be able to help to provide support for people who were in my exact situation, who just didn't have anybody to turn to, who can say, yeah, it really drives me crazy when, I wanted to wear that shirt to work today and, my partner's gone and taken it. And it's not the same as a normal sort of marital relationship type of issues sometimes. So I wanted to find a way that I could do it. I don't have the educational background that D1 has. So in my own little way, what I can do is offer my support to people going through it. Through Paula, I was fortunate enough to be invited to be included in a group that she had set up for partners. And it's an amazing group of women who, there's two separate groups, one for partners where they're transitioning from male to female, which is the group that I'm a part of. And then there's a separate group for partners who are transitioning from female to male. And it's just an amazing group of people from all ages at all different stages in their spouses or their partner's transition. And every Tuesday night we get together and hang out for a couple hours on Zoom, or, people can just call in if they're not able to come online, and we just support each other through fellowship together and tears and laughter and bad jokes and funny jokes. And, we talk about different things we've learned, and it's so amazing to hear everyone at different stages in their journeys. And we all can rely on each other. And it's just been a breath of fresh air, and something I so wish that I had 5 years ago when Sophie started really actively transitioning. So it's been an amazing gift. So Paula, I thank you for the invitation to join that group. And I've been able to lead and moderate those sessions for the last few weeks. And it's been my privilege and honor to be able to do so. At work, I've had the opportunity to come up to work on as an educational facilitator to some degree. And interestingly enough, one of the things that was highlighted by the HR professional when I interviewed was that I have this unique experience with gender diversity in a way that no one else in my firm, or at least no one else in my firm currently does. So I'm going to be working with them to implement a lot of their gender diversity and inclusivity new guidelines that will then be rolled out to the entire company. And I'll be helping to present that to those people. So I'm pretty excited about that opportunity as well.
Fantastic, Denise. I just want to say that though we're all white, the three of it, that it's a very it's a diverse group, and that we all come from different experiences. Some people are in biracial couples. There are people who are trans, who have a partner who's trans, is very welcome. It's a space. It doesn't need to just be women. I know Denise mentioned that because right now that's the configuration, but anybody's welcome to these groups. And, very inclusive, everybody's welcome. And one thing I just want to emphasize, which also to lead us into the partner conference, is that we happen to remain with our partners, right? But this is for anyone who's not sure if they are. This is if a partner who's in transition may be the one who needs to leave or has to leave or whatever, that we're not here to steer anybody's outcome. We're here to be there for you. And we started to talk, and I always had this one in my mind because now I've been doing this for 10 years at least. And being wanting to create spaces for partners and parents and family members and educators who are learning, I thought what happened is, especially now with COVID, I always thought about doing this. A lot of the conferences that had workshops for partners or any types of workshops had to make it be less people that presented because they can only accommodate a certain amount of workshops via virtually. So when partners workshops were very small ratio, as opposed to people who are trans exploring their gender or non-binary. Oh, also, I just want to say, I'm interrupting myself. I think that the next group that needs to be having a support group of partners of non-binary people and gender diverse. And
I was going to ask that question.
Yes. Oh, good, because it's been in my mind and I want to bring that up. And I met somebody, so I'll let you know, Paul. And so I think that it's really important to provide that platform because I think that that's even a more marginalized group within the subset of all of this. Especially, okay, so that being said, when everything was being done virtually, I saw even this beautiful conference that we all met at different times. They really had to make the options for partners very small. I presented. I was very privileged and blessed to do in the professional track, and then it just turned out by this moment in time that I got to do it again for the general track. Is that I really wanted to create a space that was a conference that focuses 100% on the partner, that every workshop, everything we talk about is based on the partner and the partner's needs. All the voices, those, and we wanted to open up to medical health and mental health professionals too, to listen, to hear, and then have their own breakout groups. And so we really went back and forth on this a lot. And when I had to think of who I wanted to propose this to. I talked to another close friend of mine and said, I have this idea. I know these two people that I really respect. And she's like, go for it, go for it. And my G, I talked to my G about this. That's my friend, I call him G. And so I was so nervous because I thought, oh my goodness, I was so scared they were going to say no. And I wanted them because I talked about the honesty with Denise and the friendship that we have. And Paula was really becoming a person. I mean, she invited me to speak at the book club that she started around the book. And Paula's all I caught. Denise's heart too. I mean, we all are, but Paula has this real pulse of, you know, helping others. She's a nurse, you know. I mean, I'm sorry if I'm outing you, Paula. And so I really wanted to work with them. And as Denise pointed out, our journeys have similarities and major differences. And so to hear all of our voices, we, you know, on paper, we might sound the same. In reality, we're quite different. Some of us grieve, some of us didn't grieve. Some of us, you know, wanted to stay, some of us weren't sure. It really depends, you know, and to have all the voices, and they're articulate, they're dependable. I know that they're in this so that others don't feel alone as I am. And, you know, we all have different other values that we wanted to bring to doing this, to raise people's voices and to really let people know they can do things to help in this space. And it could be a small thing or a big thing, or they can just be present, and that's enough. And so I wanted to put together it's not the first, I believe it's not the first conference for partners, because some people have enlightened me, and I'm really grateful for their history and their knowledge. You know, I've been in this space for about 10, maybe 12 years now, but people have been helping us to get where we are way before we entered this space. And I'm forever grateful to those people. And actually, somebody who's coming to the partner group really spoke to me a lot about the history that they're aware of, because they've been in this space for quite a long time, but still really want to come to the conference because they feel sometimes alone and are grateful for this conference. So I approached Denise and Paula, D2 and P3, and we really brainstormed. I had a lot of ideas, and I talked to them. I was petrified, and they were like, yes, we would love to do this with you. We were all worried about how much time we can give, and we've given so much time. I knew that, you know, give a busy person something to do, and, you know, always ask a busy person, because they always find a way to make it work. And we do it in all different hours of the night. We're in different, you know, states, different countries, and Paula works a night shift, Denise works early. You know, in between, I can work both ways when I write and present, and we all made it work.
Can I interject for one moment here? And I just wanted to hear from Denise and Paula about some of the reasons they felt that they wanted to do this conference and it was so important to do it now. Paula, do you mind commenting on that first?
Yeah, so when Dee came to us, it was this thought process of finally giving a voice to those who don't have one normally. A lot of times in our situations, like both of them were saying, we put our feelings on the back burner while we're trying to help our partners feel whole and become, you know, their whole self. And so in this situation, it was being able to finally have a voice. And a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. That's really one of my sayings, you know. And so with the workbook, it was one of those things that there's a lot of things when you go through each chapter, you're able to go, oh, I didn't think about that. Or that's not my circumstance, but it makes me think about how it relates to my circumstance. Like she'll flash us all the time, right?
She's always doing this at the meeting. Oh my God.
From what I hear, there's some amazing activities in this book. And Denise, what about you? Why did you decide to come on board for this conference?
So much of what Paula said is exactly hitting the nail on the head for me as well. After a while, it kind of gets exhausting to not have your voice be heard, because you are so busy concentrating on your partner or your family member or your student. It's applicable in all situations. And it's only in the recent history that globally there has been a more acceptance of LGBTQ plus people is becoming broader, particularly for those who identify somewhere along the gender spectrum that is not the traditional roles assigned at birth. So that's very new. And a lot of it for me personally just came down to, after having conversations with D1 and then meeting Paula and having conversations with her and joining the group, just wishing that those resources had existed 5 years ago when I started going through my process, because it's hard to do this by yourself. You do feel very alone. And there were a few Facebook groups back then, but they didn't sort of fit my scenario. I attended actually an in-person, an 8-week in-person course that was offered through something locally. And it was two young mental health professionals who had just graduated, and, they thought they would start up this arena where partners could come. But it was so different to what my experience was that it became more frustration for me than anything. And so I just wanted to be able to offer the support that I wish that I had. That's simple. And D1 was so enthusiastic about it. And, going back to this amazing book that she wrote that so clearly delineates so many important things and addresses so many specific, things that need to be considered that don't always get considered. Grief is a perfect example. People who have to grieve the loss of a partner of one particular sex while they transition to another. Things like sex and intimacy, which are an important part of a marital relationship or a partner relationship that people have to go through. And what are your feelings around that, and how do they work? Privilege, and how do you consider how your privilege in society changes as a result of this, whether to go or whether to stay in your relationship. All of these things are so important. Language, just the language, which is very specific for non-binary people or trans people, and getting used to that and having that information and knowledge to make sure that we are speaking in a way that is supportive to our partners and not triggering to them in any way. And I mean, I just had so much to learn and no resources to learn it from. So it was just an opportunity for me to be involved. And so when it came time to discussing, when D1 asked Paula and I to do this conference with her, it became apparent very quickly, although we're a partnership, all three of us together, it became apparent very quickly that, D1 really needed to be the keynote speaker at this conference, and have it based on the content of her workbook as the platform, which underlies all the breakout sessions, so that each participant who chooses to come and can attend can really focus on the relevance to them of each particular chapter, and really zone in on what's important to them. So, there's no one better than her to speak about it. I mean, her years of being an educator out there, she's an amazing, beautiful, confident speaker. And we're so proud every time that we hear her go out and speak, and try to listen to her whenever we can online. And there's no other person we could ask to be the keynote speaker. So I think we might have kind of put her on the spot, Paul and I, to be in that role, but it was the only choice. So,
it's easy to see why I love these people. She makes me cry all the time. And again, we're creating a space also for those people who their partner identify along the binary, and also for those who don't align along the binary. And Denise so eloquently explained a lot of the topics that will be discussed. We're going to be doing different, we're each going to speak. We all pick different topics. So there's, in the book, there's 13 main topics. Denise mentioned many of them. Also, how to speak to family members, come out at work or not come out at work, the inappropriate questions, how to handle that, how to, form friendships or collaborate with others with resources. There's a whole section, resources. And a lot of the vocabulary is taught through games and, all types like this, crossword puzzles, there's word searches, there's a lot of different ways to do it, different ways. And we'll use some of the exercises. So we're going to each talk about one of a topic. We're going to, 3 of us speak first for a amount of time for a while, and then we'll, at the conference, and then we'll each break into separate rooms and give people an option of which room they want to go into. Because we decided to do it virtual this year, because we want to be able to, like Denise said, globally reach as many people and be safe, because we don't know. It's on December 4th, this year on December 4th, and it's an all-day thing. It's from, in Eastern Standard Time, it's from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. with 45 minutes for lunch, where people will eat virtually and can stay on or come off. But we wanted to make sure that we cover all these topics. And then there are rooms for people who have been in the relationship longer or just found out, and different ways to break that up. And then a separate breakout room if medical health or mental health professionals are coming, where they can hear the stories of partners and ask them questions that have volunteered to, that are we're compensating them in a way to go and ask them questions that want to be candid, so that there's something for everybody. And even Lil volunteered, because when I was telling her about this, to have some of her team come and speak if we need to, or for the next conference that we do, which is so generous. I mean, we're talking about the 3 of us, but if you knew what an advocate, a cheerleader, talk about raising people's voices, that she embraced me to have this monthly series with her and share it, and often lets me be the person. And she's in the background doing her magic, as my other friend says, magic with the technology. And I don't want to forget to acknowledge that this interview was supposed to really be with Lois and Annie, and for reasons that were personal. They'll most likely be telling their story at another time, which is important. Their journey and their voices matter. And so we were trying to figure out pretty much within a day or two, what could we do? And they thought, okay, we'll do this. And Lil was like, you're going to figure it out, Dee. You're going to figure it out. And I wrote them while I was, in Virginia and figuring this out before I presented there. And it came to be. But we just want to acknowledge that we're so thankful to Lois and Annie for the input that they've given us and what they've taught all 3 of us along our journey. So Paula, how do you feel about being part of it as a presenter?
I'm honored. I really am. I'm honored that first of all, that you've chosen me and asked me to do it. But I'm also honored to be able to give a moment for the partners who don't get the time to be able to say how they feel. And you were saying earlier about whether or not our journey, you stay or you leave. And that's never, in any of my groups, I don't promote either way. I promote for you to be happy and for you to find yourself. And through that, with a lot of communication, it can go either way, and it may not be the journey that you're supposed to be on. So even though you've been married, 2 months or 30 years or 40 years, it may not be what's supposed to be. So I'm really honored to be able to be there and to help present and to facilitate questions and getting to know each other, because that's really what the groups kind of are, and that's what the conference kind of will be like. We'll have some breakout sessions to where we can sit and chat and get to know each other, because our journeys are all similar, but they're also very different because we're each individuals. And so I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
And sure, Paula, I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled. And she's a tech guru of the three of us. And so it's fabulous. And Denise is the amazing record keeper. And I'm like the creative end. And so it all works out. We're like the perfect trio. And, there's also, there are many partners also who, we welcome people who are in poly relationships, that relationships take all shapes and forms. And that some people remain friends and they're not lovers, they're not partners in that way with the sex and intimacy, or sometimes they are part of the time, or there's all different ways people leave and come back, and either or some of the people in the relationship can leave, and also on how to navigate a family sometimes at the same time. There's going to be space for all of this conversation, and we really set it up in such a way that we hope that we're satisfying everybody's needs, gives everybody their voice. We'll use some of the exercises, and the other thing is we're going to also go with the flow, in that if we see that it's the first time we're going to do this, and that, D2 is always like, it's our first time. It's, because I want it to be like, this is how we're going to do it. Let's make it the greatest thing. And D2 always reminds me, and Paula, lovingly too, says, it's okay if we don't know, we're going to try. And so I'm working on understanding that if it's not I want to listen to the people that are there. I do that as a teacher. I take the student where they're at, and I then use my toolbox. And we're going to use our toolbox to be flexible in this. And, things will go wrong. Like, Lil and I always talk about the technological end of things. It can happen. And we just, we'll work it through. And don't let, if you want to come to the conference, don't let it be because it's on a virtual platform, the reason why you don't come. Write us, all the information's on the flyer and the information, you can either get through my website or you can get it through the partner, just put the partner conference, it's very simple, thepartnerconference.com. And you can write, one of us will always write you back, and we'll help you get on. And if you bounce off, we'll get you back on. And so don't let the technology stop you from coming. Don't let anything stop you. And but the only thing we ask is that, thanks, is that you give yourself a private space somewhere to do it, so that your voice can be heard. And that one of the things the three of us really learned is that though we really want to support a partner that's in transition or questioning their gender, we really need to know that it's really important for the partner to be part of the journey, and to be, we hope, because for some people that's not the case, and that's not what either one of them wants. But we really hope that we can encourage you to use your voice and be part of the journey at the same time. So Denise, how do you feel about presenting? This is, now you're starting to present more often. How does it feel? I know it's something you really craved, and understandably so.
I'm very excited about it. The opportunity to just provide information and comfort and support and education for people who are in a similar position to what we have been through. I agree totally with Paula. It's an absolute honor that, of all the people that you've met in everything that you've been working through in the last 10 to 12 years, that, you would consider Paula and I to be, people that you want to represent with you, is a great honor. So certainly very appreciative of that. Paula, you and I are going to be lifelong friends now. Never even met in person yet. Someday we will, but, so the opportunity to form friendships as well, it's absolutely truly a gift. One thing that I really want to point out that's very, very important that the viewers know, Lilia, is that this is a very safe space for partners. And we want them to know that this is only for them. There will not be, the conference will not be accessed by, people who are not necessarily, there may be some medical and some mental health professionals attending as well for educational purposes, but it is a safe space for them to come and share their stories and hear other stories. And we encourage everyone to come and participate. And if you choose not to ask questions or, volunteer your own story, that's perfectly fine. You certainly can learn a lot from listening to what other people have been through. But I really, really want to stress that it's a very safe space for people, and they should feel comfortable that it is a place created specifically for partners, by partners, using a lot of material that Dee worked on and resourced and researched, and through many, many, many people that she interviewed when she wrote her book. And it's a solid basis. And it's going to be an amazing day. And we're very, very excited to be able to come and present it too. So we hope to see lots of people there. This is just the first year and the beginning, and it's going to just be an amazing journey that we all go on through together and just add to the richness of all of our lives.
Right. And it is a space for that, but we're going to, when, as I said, anybody in the medical health and mental health section, they'll go when partners need to share their personal stuff. Unless those are volunteered, they will all be by themselves. So, but in the nicest way, they're going to have a beautiful spot too. But Lil, I think that you said you have some questions. Do we have any comments or questions?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions from our viewers, and but I did just want to respond to what Denise was saying about creating a safe space, and I have no doubt that will be exactly how you organize it. And I know that Dee Maynard is always very conscientious about protecting people's privacy and using the right terminology. And I wanted to also speak to what Paula had mentioned earlier. And I put the link to your video too, Paula, by the way, in the chat here.
Great.
If anybody wants to know more about Paula's particular experience. And so I was going to say that I have no doubt that it's going to be an amazing, safe place and inclusive, which is what Paula was talking about earlier. And for people not to be worried that they're not going to fit in. Because working here at Facialteam, we see partners come in all different configurations, okay, type relationships and histories, long-term, short-term, maybe were formerly two women in the relationship and or two men in the relationship. So there's all different configurations, and I'm sure that this conference is going to welcome all of these people.
Yeah, and how we set it up is when you register and do everything, forms and stuff, certain things you have to do to get to come. You're not going to get the link until before, and we have it in a way that it will be very safe, so that we should be everybody would feel private. So let's hear from the audience. I'm so thrilled we have an audience, which is so exciting.
We do. We have an audience, and so the first question that came through from Kylie is that I wanted to ask you all: is it common for their partner after the transition process begins? Is it common for their partner, and common for someone not to know how they feel about their partner after they come out? Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we could all answer.
They also asked about their partner being worried about being labeled in a way they don't want to be.
So does somebody want to take it?
I'll actually answer that one because I like the second question very much. Yes, it's absolutely normal to not know how you feel before, during, and after the process. And it's important to acknowledge that your feelings may change as the process goes on, as you work together or separately with your own therapist or your own support systems, individually and as a couple. And communication, you'll learn through this conference, I think, that communication is the most important issue. that must be maintained throughout this whole process, regardless of where you start and regardless of where you finish. It's just critical to being able to go through journeys at the same time. I can totally understand the second question, because I am a cisgender woman. I am not a lesbian. I do not identify anywhere. My sexual identity is totally heterosexual, and has not changed at all. Although I have a wife, and I am labeled as a lesbian, which I'm totally fine with. I have no concerns with being labeled that way. But it was something that I did think about at the beginning of the process, and sort of had to work through in my own mind what my comfort level was with people who don't know me or have never met us, who don't know our story, automatically assuming that because my partner is a wife, we've been married a long time, that I am now a lesbian. So, it's a very personal journey, one that is important to talk about with your spouse in terms of what you're comfortable with. And one thing that I want to get across, in this call today, and that I will also emphasize in the conference, is that your needs are important, and you need to voice those needs to your partner so that they understand what you're going through, and that you can work together to find a common ground and acceptance. It's very, very important that your partner understands what you need to. So for your listener that asked that question, certainly that's something you need to bring up to your partner and talk about what your comfort level is with being labeled, because unfortunately we do live in a world right now that likes to slap labels on everyone and everything. And, it's going to take a very long time to get to a point where labels don't exist. As hard as we all are fighting against having them, it's a fact of life. So very important that you express your needs about it. And if you have discomfort about a label being attributed to you as well, that you express that.
That's why this section there's a couples communication corner in the book, because to start the conversation, because without communication between each other, it becomes very difficult. And I remember when Denise shared this with me many times, because I've interviewed her a lot before we, became friends. And that is really important about the communication. And Paula, you had kind of the opposite, right? Where you came from. Can you share that too?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I love labels and I don't like them. It goes both ways, because the labels is what brought us together, right? It's what it's the way you find other people, and it's that kind of thing. But then it also puts you in a box that everyone expects you to be in. So my relationship, I am a lesbian, and I am married to my exception. My husband is my exception. When he decided to transition, his gender did not change my sexuality. So I'm still in love with him. I still, if you want to call me a lesbian, some people will call me pansexual or bisexual or any of these things, queer, whatever label you think, fits for me, I can kind of go along with it. But personally, I don't think you require them. You shouldn't walk up to someone and say, hi, my name's Paula and I'm that kind of thing. But for us to all kind of relate, people still say, well, man, I'm still sexually attractive to this, or I'm still this, even though my partner changed. His gender stops where my sexuality begins. It's two separate things, and I keep it both. I keep it that way. But man, I'm, throughout the journey, and the journey doesn't start and stop. It doesn't, for me, there's not an end point. People always think, well, whenever I get done transitioning, there's truly, you're going to always be in a relationship of changing. Even in cis hetero norm relationships, there's constant change. So this is just a different type of change. But definitely, yeah, I'm not one for labels, but they do have a place, kind of hard.
Right. And they're so articulate and so absolute about their voices. And I love this about them. And I mean absolute in being maybe not absolute, and that but I've interviewed hundreds of partners or presented to, I can't say I can't even give you a number of how many. And there are partners who gender and sexuality do interrelate in a way that the partner starts to question their own gender or their own gender identity, and that they find that their partner transitioning, or their partners, someone in a relationship and poly relationships transitioning, that they really feel like they have permission to explore themselves. And that could be sexually, that could be gender-wise, it could be both. And so there's going to be space at the conference for people to talk about this too. And again, we're not racially diverse. I'm clear about. I understand that, and we're having representation at the conference, more representation there too. But there are many ways of showing diversity, and I think that you'll see why when you're there. And not to say that it's we're aware that we're all cisgender white women, and but we will have many voices there and present. These are the people that we're able to speak today, and that will be there. So another question, Lil?
Yes, I just want to say that this is just an amazing little sort of sample of what's going to happen at the partner conference. So I think you guys are doing such a great job. You are undoubtedly the right people to be facilitating the conversations that will happen, and will certainly help a lot of people who come along. So the other question we have is from Ms. Rose from Holland, or Netherlands. We're not allowed to call it Holland anymore. From the Netherlands, and she's asking a pretty heavy question, and that is there any hope on repairing totally broken relationships? What do you
you want me to I'll say that, and then you two chime in. Do you want me to do it? I think I always think there's hope. I'm an optimist, but the configuration, the way the relationship once was, may never be the same way again. That's my experience in speaking to lots of people who are in that circumstance. And that sometimes there's a pause, and then you can go back because you need to sort things out separately. So based on what a lot of people have spoken to me about, another thing is that, healing has to occur sometimes. It really depends on what brought the circumstance for you to end. It's often assumed that because a person transitioned, that's the reason why a relationship ended. It may be a contributing factor, but it doesn't have to be. And so what I think really has to be looked at is the health and the dynamics of the relationship. And I really think couple counselors help, to get a mental health professional to help you in the situation. We're all coming, we may be nurses and teachers, work in insurance, or do things. We're coming from the perspective of being a partner. We're going to bring our other parts there to the conference, but there's nothing that substitutes for really qualified, experienced people that are mental health professionals in this field, that have been trained properly, that have gotten, mentored maybe through WPATH or, the World Professional Association of Trans Health, that really know how to help partners and understand the uniqueness of the dynamics for partners when they're going through this. And I think you also have to have trust and belief. For me, I have faith, but everybody has their way, whatever that faith is, whatever gives them that hope at the end. And to know that you're not alone, no matter where the conclusion is, that they're not alone. So Paula, Denise, Paula, feel free to chime in. I just wanted to make sure I added in those things.
I would just add also, along with those attributes that you mentioned, D1, I would also add in respect. You need to have respect for what each other are going through. And I would say never, there's never no hope. There's always hope. And what the end product looks like may not be what you expected or what you wanted, but always have hope in your life.
And communication and grace. You know, honest, hard communication a lot of times. And the grace to know that things change and things are not, a lot of things with partners, they say, well, yesterday they told me this. Well, today's a new day.
There's many solutions. There's many solutions to a problem. And you just might need to speak to someone else. I mean, there'll be people that will offer different scenarios at the conference that we didn't think of, that we can't think of, because we haven't been there. We haven't walked in that person's shoes, and we don't know all the things that have contributed to that relationship remaining, not remaining, or transitioning, the relationship transitioning. You know, because Denise and I know Paula too, always say that, you know, there's three transitions, each individual person, and then the relationship is in transition too. Right? We say that, right, Lil? We always talk about this in all of our interviews together, but that's Denise always reminds us, and Paula and I know this too, but Denise is always reminding us in our conversations. And so again, the relationship has its own transition. And, you know, we're all here. You know, we always leave our emails, our information's out there. People want to get in touch. I don't always respond in the groups, because I really want to keep it private. I really, as Will said, privacy. And when you log on, if you come to the conference, you don't need to use your real name. And you don't need to use your spouse's or your partner or anybody that you're coming in for real name. You can stay as anonymous as you want. Put any name up there. I don't care. Super person. That's what you should put on. Super person as your name. And you don't have to put your pronouns down if you don't want to. And you might not even know what they are. So, or what your partners are. There's so much in the air.
Sorry, can I just add a quick comment to the viewer that asked that question, to say thank you. Thank you to both viewers who asked the questions, but to that last viewer specifically, the fact that you came out and asked that question, and that you're watching this live stream, and that you're trying to find a solution to what you're going through. And so that shows that you have strength and bravery that you may not be even aware that you have.
Absolutely, Denise, absolutely. I applaud that response too.
So I'm just sensitive to the time now. And, you know, we've been chatting about this for an hour, and we don't want to go into too much detail, because that's what the conference is for, right? So do you want me to put up the sign again here?
Sure. Thanks so kindly, Lil. And thanks for your generosity. Can I just,
the workbook, check out the workbook for the partners.
She'll be doing this the whole time, and she should just be the poster for it. I also want to share the next interview that I'm going to be doing.
Of course.
It's going to be with, oh, go ahead. Thanks so much.
No problem. Yeah, you keep talking.
It'll be on October 27th. It's a Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it'll be with Jana Barkin, and she wrote a beautiful book. It's called He's Always Been My Son, and then there's the little tagline, a mother's story about raising her transgender son. And I'm almost done reading it. I've been reading it. I'm going over parts over and over again, and I really think that she's a beautiful human being. Anybody that I know who is connected with her has found her to be warm and smart and kind. So please tune in.
Absolutely. I'm just sharing now a blog that Dia Maynard wrote for our website for anyone who wants to learn a little bit more. And I also would like to say to everyone, I hope you liked the 7th interview of our monthly series with Dia Maynard. I'm really looking forward to next month.
Lil, if they wanted to see the first one when you did in December, that's up there too. I think we're almost at a milestone number. People viewing, I know will probably push us over the edge. But when I think about it, Lil, I think it was on December 4th, which I think is ironic. I may be wrong. Maybe I haven't looked. And it's the same date as the conference.
It is. I'm not sure. I have to check. It might be at the same day.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's around. Maybe I'm wrong. But for some reason, I don't know. It's very funny. I don't know.
Yeah, it's around the same time. So it's a nice way, everything's coming full circle, right? So yeah, all of the lives that we've done are recorded here on our YouTube channel and our live stream playlist. So have a look. The series it's about showing different viewpoints and from the voices of partners, parents, educators, and people in transition. There's so many journeys, unique journeys to learn from. So that's why we're here to give an informative and accessible resource for anyone who is going through this together. In the meantime, also, please stay tuned for next month. As Dee said, we have a new unique viewpoint, and in the future we will have parents who one of whom are going through gender transition and what it has been like for them with their children. We will eventually have that, as Dee said before. So we're always looking to give a different twist. No?
Yep, and I just want to really thank Denise and Paula for very much arranging their whole life and schedule to do this at the last moment. And I love you both dearly. And Lil, I can't wait for all four of us to be in the same room together and give each other a big group hug.
I can't wait to get back to the stateside sometime soon.
Yes.
Visit
okay.
my family. Get together with you. That would be awesome. So I'm really looking forward to the partner conference. And Paula, thank you so much for your time. Denise,
thank
you so much for your time, like Dee said, and coming to have this talk with us on such short notice. Just shows, Dee, how prepared we are. We can deal with anything. Go with the flow.
Right. Exactly. And some of us are in different environments than we're usually in, but we made it work, right? I'm in a makeshift thing. We're all in our makeshift moments today. So thanks.
So, and thanks to our viewers who are here today, who are right now putting hearts up and saying they love these lives. And there's a question there that we don't have time for, but I'm going to forward it to all of you so that you can perhaps give a little written answer, and I'll share it with that user. So thanks everybody for coming and watching, and let's give a hand, please give a hand for those who are still here watching, to our amazing guests. And don't forget, next month is Coming Out Day and Pronouns Day, and those are ways that you can show your support for the community. Stay tuned on our blog for upcoming events. I shared the link and it's in the description of this video. And also we have a Facebook group where many people who are thinking about transitioning or who are partners of people who are transitioning are getting together and talking about all the things that concern them. So please sign up and like, follow, share this video with your lovely friends. Thank you so much, everybody. And as I always say, remember, your health and happiness matter. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.